Welcome everyone. I am Nikolai Makarov, and this is the documentary of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Now, in 1803, the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, bought the Louisiana Territory from then French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. The money that Thomas Jefferson paid for Louisiana was used by Napoleon for his war in Europe. Now, considering that this was mostly unexplored land, even by the French themselves, Thomas Jefferson decided to have two explorers search Louisiana to see what was there and what could be found. These two explorers were named Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. Their expedition set the stage for Manifest Destiny and the eventual expansion of the United States into the Great West.
Before the Louisiana Purchase even took place, Jefferson had already planned to go and explore the West. One of his main goals was to go and find a water route that would lead to the Pacific, that would go all across North America. He wanted to make detailed observations of the natural resources and geography, as well as the local wildlife that lived in the West. Another goal of his was to go make peaceful interactions with the Native Americans and hopefully gain more trade.
Of course, like on any other voyage, Lewis and Clark would need supplies, and so they gathered the following: arms and weapons, including rifles and gunpowder, and even lead sheets for their bullets. They also made sure to bring plenty of clothing in case they got wet or damaged in the wilds or the rivers. They also made sure to bring medical supplies in case they would be injured by hostile Indians or dangerous wildlife. They brought mathematical instruments such as the sextant and compasses to find out where they were and to plot areas onto maps of this new and undiscovered land. Also with them, they brought food and provisions, and not to mention gifts from Native Americans, including ivory combs, handheld mirrors, or more pocket mirrors, sewing needles, sewing thread, and other useless items that I wouldn't really be impressed with if I was a native.
When Jefferson had chosen Lewis and Clark to lead the expedition west, he didn't do it at random. Meriwether Lewis served in the frontier army for 6 years, and according to Jefferson, he was brave and familiar with the environment and natives of the West. William Clark, who was a personal friend of Lewis, served in the Kentucky militia at 19 and later joined the regular army, where he promoted to lieutenant, then captain. He had less formal education than Lewis, which is why his journals often had spelling and grammatical errors. Despite the expedition being called the Lewis and Clark expedition, there were many other people who came along with them. During the expedition, Sacagawea, a translator and guide for the men, they've stumbled upon her, and she decided to come along with the group for the rest of the journey. She would often translate the Native American messages from the tribes and would guide the men through the West.
Now, of course, on this voyage there were many perils, especially in concerns of the geography. Lewis and Clark and his expedition ran into a little bit of a very frosty winter, and their food supplies began to dwindle, probably because of Clark's poor math skills from not going into school. But things only became worse for their expedition when they had to cross the Rockies, which were a series of mountains in the Louisiana Territory. The problem here was there were rapid rivers, and so it made it very difficult to pass through, and they tried to go around the hills. And the terrain became only more treacherous, to the point where they needed horses. The problem was, they couldn't find any. And the terrain just kept becoming more and more impossible to cross on foot. And when they realized that they couldn't pass the Rockies, they decided to try and go back. But the currents of the river, while they were heading back, literally knocked them off their canoes.
Now, a main goal of the expedition, or at least one of them, was to make good relationships with the natives. But some didn't like the expedition coming out to their land. The Tane Zoo, for example, first gave small gifts to the expedition, though it was clear they didn't trust us. Once the Tane Zoo they started threatening us, the men aimed their guns towards them, and it led to a long standstill with both sides waiting to fire. Eventually, both sides retreated, and the expedition continued down the river as fast as they could, suspecting that soon the Zeal would continue to go on their tail. The Showazone was a tribe that lived in the plains that had some of the best ties with the expedition. A woman gathering resources outside the village first met the expedition and told the guards that they were friendly. They also provided the expedition with horses to help cross the Rockies, which they required. And they actually had been forced off the plains, or at least where the bison were, by other gun-holding tribes.
Now, as part of the expedition, Lewis and Clark recorded plants and animals that they found out in the west. One of them was bear grass, which, ironically, is actually not grass. Its leaves are rough, and horses don't really eat it. Another plant that they also found and recorded was elkhorn, also known as deerhorn. There are actually 7 different species, but only 2 grow in the Rockies. Now, also on this expedition, they recorded a few animals that they found there. One of them was the largest carnivore in North America, the grizzly bear. Now, during this expedition, Lewis had actually wanted to hunt down one of these, thinking it was easy to kill due to his lack of experience with grizzly bears. He found a pair of them, and when he shot one, the one I shot ran away. But the second one charged and wounded him, actually, and was barely shot down by a group of men who were with him. Another animal that they also recorded was the largest herbivorous animal in North America, the bison. And the bison was actually a prime source of food for the Lewis and Clark expedition during the winter months and when they reached the Great Plains. And the species was actually almost later driven to extinction. Well, I am Nikolai Makarov, and on the behalf of the Communist News Network, this has been the end of our documentary. Thank you for watching. What are you doing here? Documentary is over. Get out of here.